Today I want to talk about some of the things that you have to do to actually be an artist. Be a photographer, be a filmmaker, be a musician, be an actor, be any kind of artist that you desire to be. There's quite a bit of stuff that goes into it that a lot of people don't like to talk about because of their pride or their insecurities or just a plethora of things that they really shouldn't have to worry about, and which, in fact, I think are attributes that are positive, things that should be looked at as a badge of honor as opposed to something that you're trying to hide. First of all, before I forget, this is a booklet that I made a few years ago that I sell at my website, and somebody bought one of these the other day for the first time in a while. And when I looked at it this morning, I realized I made this in 2015. And this is actually something that is relevant to what I'm talking about today. It is a subway map that I created. It's an old subway map from the 1940s, New York City. I don't know how well you could see it from there. I'll do some close-ups later. But it's some of my photography from 2015. And haiku, a bunch of poems. But haiku, 575, like, for example, we are what we do when we allow what we know without the questions. That's kind of what I'm talking about. I know a lot of people wish that they were only doing their art, right? That they were only working as a photographer or a filmmaker or an actor or a musician or whatever, a painter. Like, this is what I do. I make all my money from my art. And I'm a good example of somebody who, for different periods of time in my life, I was able to say that, I was able to say that I earned all my money from music, or all of my money from theater, or all of my money from, whatever I was doing at that time, filmmaking. But there are times in between sometimes where you don't get a job for a while, I mean, unless you've developed some kind of, say, a wedding photography company or something like that where, I don't know, you're working constantly, then maybe it's different for you. But I think for most freelance artists, you got to make money to survive, to do what you do. And in my opinion, that makes you even more amazing because you don't have 24 hours a day to focus on your craft. You have to focus on other things, which also I think makes you a better artist because it makes you a more well-rounded, creative person, more of a human being, probably more empathetic, more knowledgeable. You just know more about life. And the more you know about life, the more you could put into your art, Like, there's a guy who I follow on YouTube who's a brilliant, brilliant filmmaker. His channel is called Cabral Creates. And he's also a truck driver for the post office. He's got a great job. He's probably, I don't know if he has a family, but if he does, he's got great benefits. He's got a really solid, thing in his life that he can count on to pay his bills. But I know it's his dream to get out of it and just be a filmmaker. And, I know he's going to get to that point. But I think the time that he's putting in right now is so incredibly valuable for the art that he's creating and what he's going to do moving forward. I know people doing, plenty of, jobs in between or on the side or full-time jobs. I have a good friend who is like an incredible artist, right? And she's like a multi-dimensional artist. She does so many different things, from being a painter to, designing clothes, to being an activist and a facilitator of events and things like that. But she's also got a full-time job in the, in the financial industry. And she's had that job for many, many years. And so she was able to raise her daughter pretty much by herself. She was able to have a home, to do all the things that she likes to do. She travels a lot, but she's also an incredible artist. And trust me when I tell you, she is an artist to the core, through and through. I also think that sometimes people who are artists and don't have any kind of other responsibilities, they're kind of boring because they don't know, they're not really connected to regular people. They're not really connected to people who are trying to figure out how to survive day to day and still do what they love the most, what they are compelled to do, what they're called to do, the thing that they define themselves by. It's really, really important. What am I doing today? Like, I'm here again on Route 9W up in Highland, New York, and I'm getting ready to do like 8 hours of DoorDash because I've had a dry period in between the work that I do. And in fact, what I've been doing right now is writing a lot and developing a new film. And I do the same thing when I develop a new play. If I'm developing, I can't be out there performing and memorizing all kinds of different things and focusing on different content when I need to focus on a new play or a new film. That's why YouTube is such a gift for me, because I could come on YouTube and just talk about regular stuff, you know, talk about the developmental process of my work, talk about things like this, like how we survive and how we should be proud of this kind of work. You know, I think the gig economy is a great thing for people to do, even though the gig economy is kind of horrific in a lot of ways. And mostly these companies treat their workers like shit. But you have your freedom. You could work whenever you want, you could leave whenever you want, you could do it, you know, you could stay out for as long as you need to stay out to make as money as you need to make. Like, you can control. You don't have a manager, you don't have to talk to anybody, you don't have to like show up at a certain time. You could do it anytime you want. And you get paid right away. And guess what? When I'm working on a play, what do you think I do all day if I'm doing DoorDash? I'm memorizing my script because I don't have to use my brain to go pick up some food and bring it to people, you know? Unless you let it be a high stressful situation, which is kind of easy to do, but unless you let it get that way, it's something that affords you the freedom and the headspace to do what you got to do, you know? I never leave my apartment without my camera. I've shot so many YouTube videos and short films while I was doing DoorDash at the same time. I actually shot a feature film that just won Best Coming of Age Feature Film at the Manhattan Film Festival while I was doing DoorDash 7 days a week. But I also have a rule. However many hours I might spend on DoorDash or Instacart or whatever else I do on the side, I must spend at least that amount of hours on my art as well in that day. So if I go out for 6 hours for DoorDash and I make a couple of $100, I have to make sure that I spend at least a minimum of 6 hours on filmmaking or theater or writing or poetry, music, whatever. Because that's the way I look at it. It's not a rule that everybody has to make, but that's what I do. And so I make it work. And so I just wanted to come on here and say, yo, if you got to do stuff on the side, a few things about it. First of all, you should be proud of it because you're being a responsible person, you're staying indoors, you're supporting your family if that's what you have to do, you're contributing to society, you're doing a lot of great things, and you're still being an artist. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you should be amazed at the power of you being able to multitask in that way and still be creative. That's an amazing thing, and I give you kudos for that. But the other thing is this. You should certainly not be embarrassed for what you're doing. And probably the most important thing, you should not use it as an excuse. If you have a full-time job, then bring your camera with you and document your life every day doing that job, you know? I mean, it depends on what the job is, obviously, but having a full-time job, having a part-time job, having a gig job, doing things on the side, being an entrepreneur, whatever you do, should never be an excuse for not doing the thing that's most important to you. It's actually your responsibility to continue to be an artist while you're doing anything else that you need to do to live and survive, you know? And you know, you'd be surprised. I've had times in my life where I've had 2 or 3 years where I haven't had to do anything but my art. But sometimes that actually takes away from the actual art of what I'm doing because all of a sudden I got to do interviews, I got to deal with marketing and, you know, PR people and all the kind of stuff that you need to do to get audiences to make sure that the machine keeps running. I have to deal with producers who might have ulterior motives with me, like I have to deal with attorneys and like all kinds of crazy shit, and it kind of takes me away from the purity of the work, you know? I have to deal with trying to be a celebrity, trying to be noticed, trying to be famous, you know, all that shit. It's all bullshit, yo. Sometimes the best thing is to have your regular life still happening while you're creating art, because I think your art is more precious to you then. You know, because then your goal is not to be a star and the greatest and the most well-known, but your goal is to just have the opportunity to do it, to do what you love, to do what you do best. Just because you spend more hours driving a truck or working in an office or whatever you do, doesn't mean you're any less of an artist. And in fact, I would argue that it means you're more of an artist than a lot of people who have all the time to do what they do and just put out shit that nobody feels in their chest, that nobody really is moved by, that nobody's inspired by. The fact that you overcome this obstacle that you think is keeping you from your craft is your superpower. And so I give you so much respect, and I admire you so much. And I'm so inspired by what you do and how you do it and what you share with us. And I don't care what you do. You know, as long as you keep doing your art and as long as you keep yourself happy, that's a life well lived. And so anyway, to end this, you could buy one of these at my website if you go to rockwilk.com. I actually love these things, and it's a really cool old subway map too. And quick note, when I made these, if I didn't use this particular year, I believe it's 1947, but I'm not positive about that. But every other year of the New York subway system, I would have had to pay a licensing deal to the MTA of New York City to use this because I was selling these. So I found 1 year where the license was free, so I used it. And you know, I like vintage things, you know, vintage lenses, so this worked out well for me. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff on my website. You could buy my album, the last album that I did when I left the music business. All these things support me as an artist, and I think that's what all artists do. So anyway, I got to get out of here right now and go be a delivery boy for the day. Oh wow, it was just an accident up there. So I'm gonna go make sure everybody's okay. Please subscribe, please hit the like button, and I really appreciate you. So, please join my Patreon, or consider joining my Patreon. I'm definitely leaving exclusive content there that doesn't wind up on YouTube, and you get a really good insight into the inner workings and the behind the scenes of me creating this new film that I'm working on now. So thanks so much for being here. I love you guys so much for coming here and spending your time and, taking moments out of your life to spend some time with me. I don't take that for granted. So, all right, have a beautiful day.